Today, our session revolves around questions on business immigration. So what is the intention behind setting up the business in Canada? There are ways to be able to set up a business in Canada. You have the labor market impact assessment for an owner-operator, applicant's business background, the kind of business that they want to start in Canada, and the province that they want to be able to relocate to, the viability of that business project in Canada, any study, any research on that, everything that was mentioned on the performance agreement at the time that they were interviewed. Have the regional business program, and essentially the regional business program, which is very popular among applicants right now, is business PNP program, which of course requires a substantial amount of investment and also requires strategic businesses to be set up in Canada. Hello and welcome to another beautiful day in Vancouver. Today, our session revolves around questions on business immigration. And here we go.
So, first question. We received a question from two applicants from France. They wish to start a business in Canada. What are their options?
Well, I would first look at the timeline. So, if they want to start a business in Canada, what I would see is I'm going to break it down into the kind of business that you wish to start, the province that you want to eventually start your business in, any exploration that you have done to be able to start a business in Canada. So an exploratory trip, or you have relatives in the province, friends in the province. So what is the intention behind setting up the business in Canada? The next part I would go to are the financials involved. How much money do you have available, funds available for starting a business in Canada? Also, what is the flexibility in terms of your travel? Do you intend to relocate completely to Canada, or do you want that flexibility to be able to travel to Canada and attend maybe business overseas? All of these questions need to be answered before we actually get into the answer for how do you start a business in Canada. There are ways to be able to set up a business in Canada. You have the labor market impact assessment for an owner-operator. You can buy over an existing business. There are the provincial nomination applications for entrepreneurs. So there are a lot of different categories under which a business can be started in Canada. There are intercompany transfer work permits where subsidiaries of overseas companies, subsidiary offices can be opened in Canada. What I would do is just, we need to first break it down into the timelines involved, funds involved, and then you would know how to start the business in Canada.
Next question is from Joe from Ukraine. He would like to know what are the criteria and requirements for the most business PNP's applications.
Joe, I think your question is very interesting and it would answer a lot of questions other people would have. And essentially, what you would be looking at is, firstly, the applicant's business background, the kind of business that they want to start in Canada, and the province that they want to be able to relocate to, the viability of that business project in Canada, any study, any research on that, and also the funds available for the applicant to be able to set up that business in Canada. So essentially, while it's very similar to the question asked previously, it has a different tone to it in terms of the intention of the applicant overseas. What do they want to do in Canada, the education that the person brings to them. So say, for example, there is a business that requires specific skill sets. That's something that the person would need to research.
Ron has a question that says, if he files for a business PNP application, can it lead to permanent resident status?
Ron, I think your question is great. Yes, most business PNPs do lead to permanent resident status provided. So everything that was mentioned on the performance agreement at the time that they were interviewed under the business immigration program. So yes, the BC PNP, for example, does lead to permanent resident status for the applicant. It's very important, however, to be able to make sure that you know the timelines involved, the status, the beginning of the process and how it transitions into the permanent residence application, the requirements, etc.
This is the question that I just got from a lot of people in general. Can you please elaborate what are the applicant types and business PNP applications in BC?
Oh, very good question. So we have the regional business program, and essentially the regional business program, which is very popular amongst applicants right now, is setting up a business in one of the remoter communities. And there is a list of communities, and each community has suggested industries that they would encourage in that community. So we have the regional program, we have the business PNP program, which of course requires a substantial amount of investment and also requires strategic businesses to be set up in Canada. In most cases, what I would suggest is if the applicant has a certain business plan, that they make sure that they do some level of research to be able to see how that translates or how viable that business plan is in Canada, or especially in that particular province, whether it is through a representative that they have or it is through relatives that they have that are going to be helping them set up the business. So that is the end of another very interesting session. If your questions were not answered in this session, please feel free to click on the link below, and we will ensure that those questions are addressed in the next session.